Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Sorry for the delay. I'm gonna give about 2 more minutes just to let everyone else get in. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves for just a couple more minutes.
Good morning, good morning, everybody. Sorry, allergies are hurting me, so I apologize.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. This is Patricia. It's Saturday morning and I had a long walk yesterday, so I'm gonna beg everybody's pardon and stay off of camera today.
That's completely fine. We're glad to have you, and congratulations on making some time for yourself. All right, if I feel like we've had a chance to get everyone in the door, so we can go ahead and start. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the well wishes and good mornings in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this long weekend. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 9:10. If you will, take a quick look at the agenda and let me know if you feel there are any changes that need to be made. As you can see, we kind of made the PED staff updates into a 30-minute chunk. And then we made our committee reports about 15 minutes per report. If anyone feels like their committee report needs more than 15 minutes, now would be a great time to let us know that. Yeah, so if anyone wants to make any changes to the agenda, feel free to come off mute and let us know. If you're good with the agenda, feel free to use the thumbs up emoji or your actual thumb up. I see you. All right, I'm gonna take silence as a sign of consensus. And I saw a few thumbs up. I did not see any thumbs down. So we will go ahead with the agenda. I'm sorry, did we get minutes? I'm sorry. I don't remember seeing them. We did.
Yes, they were sent out. Devin had sent them out to everyone, the meeting minutes.
All right. I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to review the minutes. And Dr. Mag, I didn't hear you. If you want to repeat yourself. So that I'm sorry, Dr. Mack. I can tell that you're speaking. I do not know what you are saying. If you want to put us a quick chat.
Motion to accept. I didn't see any changes. Did anyone else?
Oh, okay, thank you. So Dr. Mack has said that she reviewed the minutes and she didn't see any needed changes. Did anyone else get an opportunity to review the minutes and see any needed changes? No. All right. Thank you, Dr. Mack. All right, so if everyone's okay with the minutes, I'll take a thumbs up. Thank you for reading the minutes, Dr. Mack. This past month was a challenging one at the school. I will say one day we came in, we were 3 teachers down, we had 1 sub. By the end of the day, I lost 3 more teachers. It was adventurous, but we made it. We survived.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, it's not a game. It's not a game. All right. So thank you. So we'll move on to pet announcements. I'll turn it over to Ms. Bedford to usher us through that part of the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd. Good morning, everybody. Again, I'm sorry in the morning with the allergies. It's just, it's hard right now. So I'm sorry, my voice sounds really, really hoarse. And then I'll probably start coughing, but I apologize. I hope you've had a wonderful start of your morning. It's a beautiful day here in Albuquerque. I'm not sure where with everybody else, but thank you again for taking your Saturday out with us. I'll give you some updates about the staff, the hotline, and I don't know, Devin, you're on there. Did you want to start with yours, or do you want me to just go ahead and do yours? I don't know if he's on there. If not, I'll just start with Kimberly. Yeah, let me start with Kimberly while she's on there, and then I'll go, and then I'll have Simone's updates as well as Devin's updates. Kimberly.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all again. And thank you always for all that you do on behalf of the Black Education Act and the children, the students and families that we serve. We really appreciate you. I want to share with you some great news about the Meeting the Moment, which is our anti-racism, anti-discrimination training platform that is active currently for students and educators in PED, throughout PED, the PED system. And so we are proud to report that over 1,000 people have completed the training. And so that is a major mile marker for us, simply because of all of the required trainings, we have superseded all of them. So, and we have only had feedback that can be perceived as a little hostile, only one. And so that, and we have addressed those concerns, and I will gladly share, if anybody's interested, I will share how we respond, because we want to make sure that we're acknowledging all voices, but also making sure that people understand the peripheral work that is being done and will continue to be done in spite of negative feedback. I also want to let you know that I am actively working on building toolkits that can be made available to you all, as well as to teachers. And I am actively working with our community engagement and student workers to make sure that we can recruit some new students, because all of the other students are graduating. So I'm actively working on that. I'm actively working in LCPS with Dr. Lozano, who wants to be somewhat of a pilot for many things that we roll out. And so working with him, I know that he has identified that Meeting the Moment will be his platform for the training for this coming fall. We also have a timeline that is in place for the rollout of modules 3 through 6. Right now, 1 and 2 of Meeting the Moment is active. Modules 3 through 6 will be ready in our rollout on July 31st of this year. And so it will be available, modules 3 and 4 will be available to start on August 1. And then we will make sure that 5 and 6 are rolled out as well. But we want to make sure that those trainings are kind of being done in sequential order, because they do build off of each other. And that is all of the exciting things that I have for you all this morning.
Great, thank you,
Okay,
Kim.
I see that there's a request in the chat, so I'll go ahead and I'll drop the letter response that we sent, just so that you all can know how we respond. I'll put it in the chat for you.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm sorry. So I'm going to give you the update for Devin for the hotline and how the hotline is flowing. The first draft of the transition plan has been created. So Devin is if anybody doesn't know, Devin is getting ready to go on paternity leave. So he's going to have a new addition at the end of April. So we're excited. We can't wait, but he'll be out for 12 weeks. And so we were asked for him to put together a plan of how the flow of the hotline is going to go. So we have that plan. And then if anybody ever wants to look at it and seeing how the hotline is running, and I know the committee, the hotline committee meets with Devin, I'll be taking his place with that, with the hotline committee and meeting with them. But in that plan, there's the structure. He has to schedule the hotline for the intake, the flow of the hotline, the conversation template, case studies, hours of operation, expectations of the hotline, and the licensure. Also, we're working with, what's nice is we're working with Dr. Trujillo on a new rollout for getting the hotline out to the colleges. And so we're just working on the logistics right now. And then it's just going to be a collaboration between HED and PED in the rollout of the hotline. And so once we get that out, we'll send everybody the announcement, but that's big. So we can get it into the higher institutions as well.
Nicole,
I'm sorry.
if I may.
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Trujillo.
I was just going to give you a brief announcement update, I should say, is that this week there are 3 higher ed associations. So the independent community colleges, the branch campuses, and then the colleges, the universities and colleges. And this week we met with the New Mexico Association of Independent Community Colleges and just gave them an update about the Black Education Act in general, but then specifically let them know that there's going to be a rollout of the hotline and the anti-racism training. Told them that the memo would be coming out soon. And I was expecting a robust conversation, I should say. But the good news is that everybody was just interested and said that they look forward to the information that was coming. And so I thought that was a good sign that we're working in the right direction.
Great, that's good news. Thank you. So we're really excited about this and with the expansion. Also with Devin that he's been working on really hard is our website. Our website is up and live now. It just became live yesterday. So please go on PED's website to go look at it. We love feedback. Any feedback that you have with the website. It took us for a while, but it is up and running. So it's exciting because it's not just with the Black Education Act, it's with the Identity, Equity, and Transformation Department. So it's that whole website, and then we fall under that with the Black Education Act. But we're excited. Please go take a look at it and let us know if we need to make any adjustments or any changes. I'm also going to do the updates for Simone. With Simone, she has started with the BH 365. That's the Black History 365. They are looking at the resource as being a supplemental to the core history classes and possibly the main textbook for the Africana Studies class is the part of the new social studies standards for a 12th grade elective. If they decide to use this book, our next steps will be to connect sections within the book to this new social studies standards and get the approval from PED. Our review trial period will end in 2 weeks. We will review more books as they become available. She's also been working with the director of instructional materials to understand the process PED uses for vetting possible core and supplemental materials. Materials on the core list usually can be purchased by school districts as a discounted price. PED has a rubric to evaluate core materials. And then if you want more information, you can get in contact with Simone. I'm just gonna read tidbits of what she has. She's also completed talks and have scheduled 2 community members that will help with developing the Black New Mexico history books. Where they're looking into developing one for the middle and high school book for 3rd to 5th grade, and then also from 5th to 12th grade. Phase 1 for the book development and research and completion for the outline. This phase was a deadline of June 30th. We are still in the discussion phase with the second community member for the elementary books. So we're also working with other community members in the production of a K through 2nd Black history books. The books that we're trying to get put together, we're trying to get them into the libraries of all of the school districts, the charter schools and the local charter schools, so that we have, and the books are going to be surrounded around New Mexico Black history for the schools to have. The next one, she has a person who is a member of the team that revamped the social studies standards, completing 10 culturally relevant lesson plans as examples for teachers. She's completed all initial paperwork and are waiting for approval to begin this process. The lesson plans will cover various subjects in different grade levels. We will add the lesson plans to the teacher resource section of our PED website. She's also working with the Humanities Division in PED to participate in their community of professional meetings for curriculum. She will present our section of the PED website to the group. She will advise the teachers on how to access culturally relevant material related to various standards within the new social studies curriculum. That meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, May 18th from 3:30 to 4:30, and it's open to all history teachers. And then she's also been doing meetings with OAAA, the Office of African American Affairs. They're continuing as they plan to launch the website for Black students by May 2022. They are developing a curriculum to share with the students over the summer that includes how to advocate for a BSU, a Black Student Union, within their schools, planning virtual meetings over the summer to provide connections, especially to students in rural areas, organizing June mixers for the students, focusing on various Juneteenth celebrations across New Mexico, and providing culturally relevant curriculum that uplifts the culture while providing educational support for their, and then her plan is to advertise the site at the Black Education Act town halls, through Black churches, and various social media sites and school counselors. So that is what Simone is doing. And again, if you have any questions for what she's doing with the social studies standards or the book development, please let her know. Go ahead, Dr. Lopez.
Buenos dias, familia. Good morning, family. It's a joy to be here with you. I just had a question about whether or not there's an opportunity to work with the Latino studies or Chicanx studies across the state. I just posted in the chat, there is going to be a festival on Afro-Latinx culture, language, history, and it starts tonight until the 23rd. And I think it's such an important part of creating that flexible solidarity. And so I'm hoping that there's a way that that happens. And then the last comment I'll make is, I'm hoping that, I know that there's going to be an elective at 12th grade, but we really need this in high school, particularly in the 9th grade. And I know that certain districts like APS have had Africana studies, and usually it is available to 11th and 12th, but occasionally you'll get a 9th grader or 10th grader. And those courses are transformational for everyone, especially our students. So I'm wondering if there's a way we could convene a meeting of the teachers who are currently doing Africana studies, not only in APS, but throughout the state, potentially as electives, to just strategize, because what it might just take is transforming an English class or a social studies class that already is approved as meeting the social studies standards for 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, but including the learning outcomes that pertain to Africana studies. So it's a two-part question, kind of making sure that Africana studies is also integral to Chicano studies, Afro-Latinx studies, but also building capacity from 9th grade on, particularly in high school.
Yeah, because I'll bring that up with Simone, because it would be interesting to see who is doing the Africana studies. I'm scared. I know Highland at one point had a program, but I'm not sure if that one is still up and running. And so it would be interesting to take that look if what schools are offering Africana studies.
And now that Africana Studies at UNM has become a department, there's also an effort to include Afro-Indigenous studies as well. So all I'm saying is this is such a powerful opportunity to create that synergy, that solidarity, and that deep, deep knowledge of the entire diaspora.
Exactly. So I would like to meet offline and seeing how we can get together and and form another, not another committee, but how we can work offline and work with those teachers and seeing what they're doing. And especially because we're doing that development of the social studies curriculum, we want to make sure that we're on that same line of what they're teaching in the schools. There's no sense in doing anything separate if we can all work together. Thank you, Dr. Lopez. And then I just have a few announcements of what we're doing is just as a team. Kim mentioned in hers that we had the Canvas up and training. What's nice about that, like she was saying, we had over 1,000 people to take the training. We added PEDs since the trainings have been added to Canvas. We are actually the second largest that people have taken. And that's just, we're just behind a training that is mandated. And so this training is not mandated. So to have people to be out there to take it is awesome. Town halls, we Superintendent Moore is on. And so we were wonderful. We were great to have, we had a wonderful town hall in Alamogordo. It was really great. We had community members in, they gave us some really good feedback with the Black Education Act. And so we're trying to expand the town halls. We're looking at having one in Las Cruces, either in May or June. We're also looking at having a town hall in Clovis, and that one would be in May. We're working on the dates right now because May is just so hard, but we're working on the dates with the Clovis in the community. And so we want to expand it to any of the different cities out there. We're looking into talking to Farmington. We're looking at talking to Hobbs. We're also gonna work, I think we're gonna go back again to Alamogordo. There's two other churches that would like to host the town halls. And so if you all know of anywhere that we want to present, we do want to have one in Albuquerque as well. We'll probably do that one in June as well with the town halls. But if you have any contacts, or if your city, if you'd like to host a town hall in your city, please let me know and we can get that started up and started. But it's just nice to get the word out and just to hear from the community. A lot of people in the community do not know about the Black Education Act, but the feedback that we received was really great. So thank you, Alamogordo, for thank you for hosting the town hall. And Mr. Copeland was the one that hosted Mr. Copeland was the one that helped us in coordinating the town hall. So thank you. The staff is also taking, we all got certified in a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. And so we got certified with that program. It was great. We will be going in June to Los Angeles to do another diversity training program. It's a 5-day program that we'll be doing. And it's about having courageous conversations, how to have those courageous conversations, and how to tackle anti-racism and doing anti-racism training. And so it'll be a 5-day program that we'll be going to in Los Angeles in June. If there's any other programs out there that you would think the staff would love or would be beneficial to the Black Education Act team, please let us know. And then because trainings is important. And so we any trainings out there, just let us know. PED did have a spring budget, and the spring budget is a big conference for all of the school districts and charter schools and local schools. This year they had the biggest attendance. And so with those, it's a 2-day program, and they talk about budgets and they give trainings to the schools. And Simone Van actually presented on our Meeting of the Moments Canvas training as well at the spring budget. So that was really nice. And we had really good positive feedback. So I was saving the best last. I was saving the best news for last. So we now have it's the it's good news and it's kind of bad news. So the good part of it is the Black Education Act now has $500,000 recurring money for our budget. So it's recurring, it's $500,000. It's great, that is awesome. The downside of it is that the budget pays most of our salaries. And so we'll have another person coming on. It's going to be a family and community person. So a big chunk of that money goes to salaries. So it doesn't leave us a whole lot for operating funds. So it'll leave us around around $80,000 to $100,000 in operating funds. And so we still want to go out and talk to our legislators, talk to your legislators for the upcoming session about putting more money to the Black Education Act. We've also did some grant writing this week to legislators, to the federal legislators. They have money that is set to their budget that they're giving out into their districts here in New Mexico. So we did apply for a couple of those grants. We're just waiting to hear back if we made it to the second phase for those grants. So we're looking for funding. We're looking for federal funding. We're looking to see if the legislation could put more money to our budget. But we have a budget and it's recurring. So that's a start, and that's awesome. So we're very, very happy about that. And then sorry, so yes, if I'm just reading Hakeem, sorry, in this chat. So if again, if you know of any grants that are out there, please let us know. We'll tackle anything to help. So, but that's a start. And my last thing, I'm so sorry. My last thing for the Black Education Act is I just want to do a 3-month, we've gotten started. We've met probably about 3 to 4 times. I just wanted to do a check-in and just to see if this is working. Are you still set on the monthly meetings? How are the subcommittees going? I just wanted to do just a quick check-in with everybody. If you can just raise your hand, or you can just go ahead and have feedback and make sure that us as a staff are meeting the needs of the advisory council as well. Because I know some of them, our advisory members are also on the subcommittee. I want to make sure I'm doing my job in endorsing and helping with the advisory council. What can I do more as being that liaison and that middleman for the community, the schools, and the advisory council. And if everybody's happy, that's great. Oh, Dr. Lopez.
Yes, so I just posted something in the chat that might lead to grants. There's a recent action plan released by about 950 agencies in the federal government on racial justice. So perhaps there's a way we could tap into that. But regarding the logistics, one of the things we do at UNM in the Diversity Council is that we schedule our subcommittee meetings kind of during, sometimes, not always, during the monthly meeting, because logistically it's hard to coordinate 5-8 schedules during the week. So that's just a thought that maybe once every other month, we would dedicate an hour, since we have a 5-hour block, to do a committee meeting. And then maybe the off month, we could just try to coordinate our schedules. But it's been a challenge for the data and policy. We did meet, but not very many people were able to make it. And it's just reality, right? We are all overcommitted. So that's just a thought.
So Dr. Lopez, what I hear you saying is maybe we start and do the 9 to 10 o'clock hour for committee meetings, and then we start as a group at 10.
That could work. And I don't know how many people can do that, but given that we have 4 or 5 hours, right? It might make sense just to harmonize our schedules. And we do that in the Diversity Council occasionally here at UNM.
Are you going, Dr. Boyd?
Oh yeah, no, I like that idea.
I do.
Does anyone else want to give any feedback on that idea? Then maybe we can reach consensus on how we might consensus on restructuring our meeting days in that way.
This is Sandra. I would third that idea. I've had problems meeting with the Data and Policy Committee, but I've been successful meeting with Devin and our other committee member, Johanna. I think we've had 2 or 3 meetings that I thought were very beneficial. So I third the motion.
I have questions about it. Oh, Hakeem, it looks like has his hand up too.
We might have the same question, Joseph. Good morning, everybody. I think that that's a great idea, Dr. Lopez. I would just say that how do we stagger so that if we're meeting right before the all hands meeting or the larger meeting, how do we say that that committee meeting from 9 to 10 is in advance of agenda items for the next meeting, right? So how do we get to the point where that committee meeting is actually, because it's kind of hard to report back immediately after you have a committee meeting or to do any of the action items. So how do we make sure that that hour is actually working towards things that need to be discussed or on the agenda for the next meeting? So.
If you want, I could reply. I think what would happen is I said maybe we could do it every other month. So it's just a built-in so that would give us the flexibility for maybe an action item. It's not true that we'll have an action item from every single committee every month. But certainly if we institutionalize it so that it happens on a regular basis, not every single meeting, then we can have guarantee that we have some, format for, or some structure for meeting. So yes, I think we could do it every other month.
And then Joseph, you had additional questions?
Yes, it was partially answered. I might have to think out loud as I'm saying this now. If we were to do, so for the Curriculum and Professional Development Committee, we meet twice a month. And now one of those meetings would be during the Saturdays. So for instance, we have one offsite, or I'm calling it offsite, one offsite meeting and one on this meeting. But then the next month we'd have 2 offsite meetings since we wouldn't meet. So that's essentially what you're saying, is every other month we do that, and it would replace one of the meetings that we did. And then my question was actually, so was that, first of all, that's what we're clarifying, but I think I already have that clarified. I think it's because Dr. Lopez said that. So, but the second question is, last meeting, we were talking about shortening these Saturday meetings because we were going to just meet online. We didn't need all that time. And so Dr. Lopez said, yes, maybe we have 5-hour blocks, but last week we had decided, no, we don't have a 5-hour block necessarily. So I guess my question is, are we thinking about extending the time on Saturdays? Is it because Saturdays work better for everyone? Or is it just that we're trying to condense and say, if we can say 2 meetings in one day, that helps, and that's how people can attend more easily?
Yeah, I think it's kind of both, Joseph. I think with everyone working in these different education industries, we all have different days where we have some options to book additional meetings. And so I do think some groups are finding, some of the committees are finding it easier to find that time on a Saturday as opposed to during the week, where they just have natural overlap with all of their committee members. But you do, and you do bring up a good point. I'm comfortable with the idea of holding 9 to 10 every other month for committee meetings, and then sticking to the kind of 2-hour chunk we kind of quasi-established it takes for us to get through the meetings together as a group. I mean, for simplicity's sake, I'm also comfortable with making our meeting times from 10 to 12, like for the groups for the rest of, for our monthly meetings. And just knowing that 9 to 10 can be used as needed for committee meetings for the different committees. I realize it's not as clean cut, it's a bit ambiguous, but I think it could be helpful. Dr. Lopez?
The only concern I would have is for the public, if we change it so that it's every other month, one time is 9, one time is 10, it might be confusing. So I'm just wondering how people feel about meeting just early, keeping the 9 a.m. so that we could be done by noon. And then just meeting earlier for those committees that have trouble. Everyone else should continue meeting when they want to, but that it's an option, that option remains, and that if people want to meet earlier, 8 to 9. That way that the time stays consistent. We don't want to send mixed signals about the time. It's just a thought.
Mhm. So, all right. So now we're saying we could keep our time where we're doing our group work from 9 to 11, and then possibly committees who are having trouble meeting throughout the month during the weeks. They are encouraged to use the 8 to 9 time slot for those meetings.
That's my suggestion. That way it just keeps it the same, and then we're done. If people have to do things in the afternoon, they don't have to wait.
I would even say, for me, to keep things consistent, and again, this might just be a personal thing, so I don't know, but I would almost say, instead of just encouraging, let's meet. Like, why don't I don't know, maybe subcommittees don't need to meet, but I know our committee is constantly reviewing material. So I would say, why don't we just go ahead, and maybe the expectation is that we meet at 9 to 10 each month. And that way that stays completely consistent, and there's no, oh, do we have a meeting this time or not? And it, just make sure it's consistent. And then for instance, my committee could also have one other meeting that's not during that day each month. But that would keep it consistent for me too, because it's hard for me to keep my schedule and remember when we're not, or I mean, I could write it down, but I'm just saying I'm very pattern focused.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I understand that. Are there any other thoughts on the process yet, Nicole?
Mhm. Yeah, and then just to be, because also if you're doing the meetings, you can leave them optional for after our main meeting. And then and then afterwards, if your committee wants to meet, they can go ahead and meet. And so that's way it's not, it's not a set meeting. So, and it's not so early in the morning from 8 to 9, but then we meet from 9 to 11, or, usually it's 9 to 11. And then it's optional for the subcommittees to meet afterwards, and then they can stay on and go ahead and meet. But that way we can keep that consistency with our meetings, but then they have that option to meet afterwards while you already have everybody on. And then to answer Hakeem's question, then whatever you meet on, you already know what we talked about in the main meeting. And so you can meet with your subcommittee, and then whatever you discussed after the meeting, it can be for the next month as well. So you'll still have your topics flowing.
Okay, I like those ideas. All right, so we're gonna stick with our group meeting being from 9 to 11. And then you're encouraged to work with your committees to see if you need to employ the use of meeting an hour before we gather as a group, or possibly an hour after, or the hour following our meetings as a group. Do we have thumbs up, thumbs down on that? Sound good? All right, thank you guys, thank you. And then when you get with your groups and you decide if you wanna, I like these comments in the chat, that once you get with your group and decide which one makes the most sense for your committee, if you would like to use those, then feel free to communicate those times with myself and Ms. Bedford, and we can and then we can have them set for the remainder of however long y'all decide to meet at that time. All right, sounds good. Ms. Bedford, did you have additional? Okay.
Just to we have a brochure. We have a brochure that is nice, Kimberly put it together. It's a really good. We will be getting professional brochures made up, but right now we have them. So if anybody needs any brochures, let us know. We can get them out to you. And then we're also going to be doing promotional materials as well. So we'll get that up and running that we can hand out. We'll have pencils that have the hotline on there. We'll just have different giveaways and items for us to do booths as well. So we have those items out. And I think Kim put the brochure in the chat as well. So we can look on there. I think that is all that we have for the staff updates.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bedford. I know in the last co-chair meeting, we talked about the code of conduct just briefly. And then is there a member that wants to lead us in that discussion? Ms. Bedford, is it you or is it someone else?
It is me.
Okay,
I didn't
sorry.
have it. Yes. I didn't have it up for this meeting because I wasn't sure, and I should have, and I apologize. But yes, we did all the advisory council members receive the code of conduct? And I know some of you had to sign it and send it back to Simone. We just wanted to make sure that was what, the code of conduct, everybody understands it. Do you have any questions? And if you haven't sent it back to Simone, if you can go ahead and send it back to her. And if there's any committee members that did not receive it, that I can go ahead and send it out. We can have a discussion on that now. Is the code of conduct, is it good? Is it something that the committee would want for them? Or is there any changes that we need to make to the code of conduct? If not, we can just keep that document and just have everybody to send it in.
Thank you, Ms. Bedford. Is anyone uncomfortable with the code of conduct? Anyone have any comments for it? All right, so then we'll expect that you, if you haven't already, you review the code of conduct. And are we sending that to you, Ms. Bedford? Is that the best way to do that?
If you could send it to Simone. Simone,
sorry, thank you.
Yes, she has a folder, and all the code of conduct. She has a folder that she has for that house the code of conduct. It won't be on the Google Share Drive because it just for privacy reasons.
Right.
But yeah, she'll have a folder for that. And then also I have on there the Google Share Drive is up. If you have any questions, Devin would be the best person to ask for the Google Drive if you have any questions on that one. And I think Dr. Trujillo has a question.
I think I answered it myself. I was looking at the code now, and it was for item 5, use of resources. I saw that was directed specifically to the New Mexico Public Education Department. And I was going to ask, sorry, I haven't thought about this too deeply, if there were any considerations where we'd have to think about higher education department needing to be a part of that letter 5. But as I read the rest of it, it doesn't seem like it, because this is specifically about the council, and that is governed by PED. Yeah, so that, I'm sorry, I just thought about that out loud, and I think I answered my own question.
Okay, good.
Thank you. And then Dr. Meg, did you have a question? All right, Dr. Lopez?
Yes, one question I have is in some of the scholarly associations that I belong to, we always put agenda items saying, do you have a conflict of interest or even a perception of a conflict of interest with any of the action items or discussion items in every agenda, so that people disclose it at the moment, not just, subscribe to a code of conduct, so that, so say for instance, we're discussing the construction of a new school or something, and you own that company, and you're, in other words, that it's just integral to whatever we're going to discuss that day, that whoever has a conflict of interest would recuse themselves from that discussion and vote. It's just a suggestion, which is related, but not, necessary to include in the code of conduct, although I think there is reference to conflicts of interest. But just making it a permanent agenda item. And it just protects our work. That's the whole point, to protect our work.
No, I think that's a great idea, and I think we can give it a test run at our next meeting. I'll build it into the agenda. Thank you for that suggestion, Dr. Lopez. All right. All right. Miss Dr. York does have a one final question for us from the PED staff.
I apologize. I had it written and completely overlooked it. So one of the things that we are being very intentional about with the meeting the moment training and all trainings is to make sure that we're collecting data about the effectiveness of the trainings. And so we have a survey, but we are, prior to rolling out modules 3 and 4, we will be doing a focus group. And I specifically requested to invite members of the advisory council to participate in that focus group. And so if anyone is interested, I can provide you with more information, but I think that it's important to have your voices represented in the focus group.
All right, thank you for that information, Dr. York. Thank you for that opportunity. I appreciate the work that you're doing. All right, let's go ahead and take these 6 minutes to do a little stand up and stretch. And then when we return, we'll do committee reports. All right. So we'll return at 10 o'clock sharp. All right, thank you. All right, you guys did great. We are back and it's 10 o'clock. Let's hop into our committee minutes. Our committee report, sorry, and we will start off with curriculum and professional development.
The Curriculum and Professional Development Committee met this past Monday at 3 p.m. And at this meeting, we discussed the BH 365. That's the book that Simone was talking about. And we discussed both things that we saw that were really great in the book. For instance, we liked just the aesthetic of the book. It had a lot of interactive material in it as well. So there were links to information, and social studies teachers and other teachers alike said that they loved that it started with the history of Africa rather than just talking about slave trade first. And that was actually inclusive of a broader picture of Black history. And this week, we are starting to take a look at these two books. This one is called Stamped from the Beginning, and this one is An Indigenous People's History of the United States. These were sent out to the social studies teachers, and a few members of our subcommittee have access to this, including me now. So we'll be reading through these two books, and we are using a tool called from the CARE anti-racist organization. It has a tool of, it's a rubric where we each individually will ask ourselves questions about, are these resources anti-racist? Do they include historical truths? Do they include perspectives from, and all inclusive of those, of all perspectives? And after we individually assess and evaluate each one of these books, we'll come together as a group, we'll discuss these, and we're looking to come up with kind of a consensus of, in a way to, in this discussion, that consensus of a score. And so what happens with the CARE review tool is you score each one from, I think it's 5 points, and it can go to -5 points for each category. And it's, you get 5 points if it meets the criteria. It's -5 if it's completely non-inclusive, if it's, particularly centric of one culture and not of the others, things like that. And then we have an average score at the end. So we'll be discussing those in the curriculum team. And our next item of action is we're creating right now a Google Sheets document, so that each member of the group will be submitting at least one resource into this. And for this next meeting that we come together. And we're going to go through that list and slowly review each resource. We're looking at adding about three resources for each subject expertise area for at least this time frame between now and, we're looking at now till somewhere in November as we review 3 resources for each area. And the other thing that we discussed was Mondays were not working. I think Simone and Kimberly were not necessarily able to make all the meetings work, as well as some other members. So we're now going to be meeting on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. to try to make sure that every person, as many people as possible, can meet together. We have added to our subcommittee social studies teachers. We have a librarian, media specialist, elementary specialists now. They'll be coming on pretty soon. We have performing arts and a few others. We're still looking for, if somebody knows anyone in the science realm, we need a science teacher, and possibly someone from career technical education. That would be awesome too, to have someone on there too. And that concludes, I think, what for the Curriculum and Professional Development Committee.
All right, thank you, Joseph. Anyone have any comments for Joseph or Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development Committee? Thank you so much to the committee for figuring out how to make it work and coming up with those very specific and tangible deliverables. We appreciate what you're doing. All right, our next committee is Data and Policy. We have a Data and Policy update. Dr. York, are you leading that one?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'll yield to Dr. Lopez. She led the meeting on Thursday.
Sure. So as you know, Dr. Patricia Trujillo and I are co-chairing this committee, and we've had challenges meeting as a group. Dr. Patricia Trujillo and I have been meeting somewhat regularly. And then this last Thursday, it was Kimberly and myself who met. And we went over some of the priority items that have already been shared in this context. For example, we talked about the importance of including an executive order on adding the preferred criteria for all hiring that says demonstrated commitment to equity and inclusion and working with broadly diverse students and communities. So that's something we instituted here at UNM in 2014, actually. It's on every job ad and it has been transformational. All I can say is that if we don't start with the hiring as a policy, then we're not going to make much progress. The second thing that we've been discussing as a priority, we've already mentioned, and that is to make New Mexico the first state in the country to engage in collecting data systematically from preschool to grad school on parental educational attainment for equity lifts and distribution of resources. This data point is not currently being collected. It is collected, interestingly enough, for anyone who applies to higher ed and fills out a FAFSA form, a financial aid form, but that's not every student. So why don't we lead the nation in this effort for data that matters for equity and distribution of resources? If we don't have that data point, we don't know who's actually accessing higher ed and finishing. Is it only the students who have parents with college degrees, right? What's happening? Maybe we'll find that even if you are Black and you come from a family with higher ed background, 4-year college degrees, you're not graduating at the same rate. So again, this data point allows for that intersectional metric of how are we doing, how are we serving our students? And then the other thing that occurred to us is to do an inventory of any programs here in this state that assume that mirroring the demographics of the state is sufficient for equity. And what that does is say, well, since our state has only 4 or 5% Black, then, you know, if we're admitting a class for this particular graduate program that's 4% Black is fine. No, we need to question that and say how that might be creating, regardless of good intentions, anti-Blackness, right? And saying, oh, we'll just admit 1 or 2 students, whether it's medical school, whether it's, you know, some other program, maybe nursing, whatever. So those are just some of the ideas that we have. They're low-hanging fruit. The executive order is something that can happen very quickly. The idea of making sure that we collect parental educational attainment could be piloted in some district, maybe a partner that is interested. It could also lead to more funding when we show that our programs like ethnic studies are making a critical difference for students coming from, you know, households where no one has a college degree. And if we also take inventory of any programs that are saying, well, this program is going to prioritize only students who mirror, you know, the demographics of the state, and we call that to question and see whether or not that is inadvertently excluding Black students, then we've made progress. So those are just mine, and I'm going to invite Patricia, Dr. Trujillo, to share any other things that we've discussed in our previous meetings, and Kimberly as well, because we met this last Thursday.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Lopez. One of the things that is on my plate, I go to several meetings a week for the New Mexico Longitudinal Data System, which is being designed right now. We're about to start working with our vendors, which is Google. And this is going to be the system that connects the data from ECECD, PED, HED, and Workforce Solutions to essentially give us that data over the span of any particular student's life. So we can also start creating data policy around that. And I keep feeling like it's more and more critical as we continue to have the data discussions in this group to almost have like a racial justice data policy advisory group for the NMLDS, because it is not really being considered. And anytime that as a lone voice, I try to intervene in some of those conversations, you know how that can be, right? You can say something out loud, but then it kind of drops like a thud on the floor and people keep moving forward. And so I know I keep suggesting this, and it's like, I don't mean to be putting more work on the staff members of from PED, but again, if we could do like a letter of support or a letter of recommendation to the NMLDS with, you know, what Dr. Lopez just shared and other ideas we have about how we can make the system more equitable, we can build that into it because we haven't built it yet. And so for me, it's always better to, you know, be a part of creating the framework as opposed to going back and trying to add it on later. And so from my end, I can continue to advocate to say, hey, we need to bring in folks who are working on this already, like the researchers who are working on this to help us think about it. And I will talk to Secretary Rodriguez about it. But I do believe that it would be an important time for this advisory committee to send a letter to the NMLDS committee to let them know that we're paying attention and that we want to be a part of the greater effort. And I'm just going to drop the new website for, I think I've shared it before, but if folks aren't familiar with the New Mexico Longitudinal Data System, which is a clunky name, so the public facing version of this you'll see is RISE, and that stands for Research Informing Success in Education. And I'll drop it in the chat, and that's my report.
Thank you. And I think I was just, you know, being new, that I was just being brought up to speed with all of the amazing work that this subcommittee has done. And Dr. Lopez and I had some really, really heartfelt conversations just about the Afro-Latina population. And I do believe, I agree with her in that we have to be very intentional. I know based on my experience at NMSU that oftentimes students that identify as Afro-Latina are kind of left out either intentionally or unintentionally, but nonetheless left out of the conversation. And so I fully support that we are being more intentional about serving and supporting that population. And then the only other thing that I could add to the conversation is just an administrative thing, which is that we recognize that everybody is extremely overcommitted and stretched far and thin. And so my commitment as the BEA staff person is to record all of the meetings, and that way that any committee members that are not able to attend can still have access to the current information before the advisory council meeting.
And thank you for reminding me of one last thing that I wanted to mention related to this, that just as I alluded to in my comments about the curriculum and how we can create synergies with the Hispanic Education Act and the Indian Education Act, the same is true for data. And thank you for reminding us, Dr. York, about how, you know, for Hispanics, we're all lumped together. There's no way for us to know if Black Latinx are being suspended or having access to AP and all of the other programs at the same level than Latinx that are not Black. So we really do need to do a deep dive and a partnership with the Hispanic Education Act around intersectional inquiry about that category of experience is not the same. And all the data across the country shows that, right, in terms of anti-Blackness within and outside of the Latinx community. So I hope that we can establish a regular meeting time for all of the Education Act committees, at least once or twice a year.
Yeah, yeah.
because they're also Afro-Indigenous students as
Right.
well, and Afro-Asian.
Right.
We know this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Dr. Lopez had hit on a very key point, because when I used to at NMSU as the director of Black programs, would receive graduation information. If you are a student that is identifies as one race or two, they would identify those two. But if there's more, then it's just kind of clumped in and you don't get the full information about who that person is. And it's like the people who hold the data gets to distribute what they want you to know about this student instead of us serving and understanding the entire student. The other thing that I think that is important to mention is, and this will relate to policies, is that of course I oversee the trainings, and so critical race theory comes up oftentimes. And so one of the things that I shared with Dr. Lopez is there is the social studies department at PED sent me a document, a 2,000-page document that from community input with concerns that the work that we are doing is aligned with critical race theory, and that it is promoting anti-whiteness. And so as we are thinking about policies, I think that it's important to inform people about the differences, right? And as Cesar Chavez, would always say that preservation of one's own culture does not require disrespect or discontempt of other cultures. And I think that that is a very misleading notion about the work that we're doing.
Can I just, Dr. Lopez, with the tie-ins, what's nice is that the Hispanic Education Act also has money tied to it this year, starting July 1st. And so they're going to be hiring new positions for the Hispanic, just for the Hispanic Education Act. Right now, Myra is overseeing cultural and linguistic and the Hispanic Education Act. So it's been a lot. But once they bring on that liaison, we'll be working more closely together, hand in hand. And then also with the Indian Education Act. So after July 1st, we will be working more closely with the other acts as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad to hear that that's going to happen. That makes a lot of sense. Does anyone have any questions or feedback for the Data and Policy Committee? All right. Thank you so much for that wonderful and thoughtful work that you all are doing. And I will do my best. If you all would CC me on your committee meetings, I'll do my best to show up and participate. I do have some experience with impacting state longitudinal data sets, so that is an interest area of mine. The next committee report we have is Family and Community Engagement. I won't make assumptions this time with the spokesperson for Family and Community Engagement speak up for that report.
Good morning, everyone. I will be giving the report for the Family and Community Engagement. Monique and I have met a couple of times since our last council meeting, and Monique was able to adjust the needs assessment survey based on the recommendations from the council and members of PED. We are still looking to get that disseminated. We were hoping to have it at the town hall meeting. I believe we missed that for Alamogordo, but it is in the Google Drive now with the amendments from the suggestions from the previous council meeting. So that's in the drive. So hopefully we can have families fill it out at the next couple of town hall meetings in May. Let's see, we are still looking to get a listserv. So if any council members have any listservs of Black churches, Black-owned businesses, BSAs, and things like that, please send them to either myself or Monique so we can start to get that disseminated as well. We are looking to also create a student needs assessment based on the family needs assessment as well. to target senior students, college students, and freshmen and sophomores in college. More specifically, we're looking to get a temperature of the climate, their retroactive experiences, their supports and resources that they had or feel that are needed. And a couple of our to-do items are, again, follow up on the dissemination of the needs assessment survey. Again, get a listserv of the Black churches, as well as create the needs assessment for college students. And hopefully we can have an event. We were also thinking of having multiple events or booths at Juneteenth's coming up in the next couple of months. So hopefully we can get this information and start to come up with some future action items that we can present at some Juneteenth events or the end of year high school end of year events and things like that. So we can start pushing this out. We will be meeting next on the 21st at 5:30. We typically meet on Thursdays between 5:30 or 6 o'clock and use that hour to kind of get the plan rolling. So that's all I have. Monique, if you want to add anything, I believe that's all we had.
No, I believe you covered everything. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or feedback for the Family and Community Engagement Group?
I do have one feedback. We did do the survey at the town hall in Alamogordo. So we do have that paperwork. Yes. We're actually going to take it Tuesday and analyze it and go through the feedback for
Okay,
what they did in Alamogordo. So we do have that.
Was that a physical, were those physical copies? We were looking at the Google form and we didn't see any submissions. So we were.
Because they didn't have the Wi-Fi and it was harder with the computer. So we just did it with the physical. I mean, we just have the hand copies for the from them.
And that's a good point moving forward. If we're going to offer this at any events, we can definitely have the technology available to aggregate that information.
Exactly. And then also I wanted to piggyback if with the Juneteenth, let us know because the staff, we can travel. And so if we have to have a staff member at each Juneteenth, just to make sure that we get the data for you, just let us know. We can do that. We can have one person here if there's Juneteenth in Clovis, or we'll be able to, we can travel and also be and help out with the team. So just please utilize the staff when we're doing the surveys.
Sure, that'll be awesome. I'll reach out to Simone for more info on that, to use her as a vessel. Yeah, we were also looking to rely on the colleges in their events for Juneteenth, specifically NMSU and UNM. So,
okay, perfect. Yes,
I can
please,
also, I can circle back. I'm not sure if Simone was already working on this or not, but to reach out to the Office of African American Affairs for the list of the Black churches. So if Simone is not already doing that, I'll commit to getting that information for you.
that would be super helpful. Thank you.
All right, and I don't really know why, but hearing your report, Romulus, it made me think about the Posse Foundation. And I just stuck that link in the chat for anyone who wants to check it out. The Posse Foundation sends groups of scholars, groups of minority scholars to colleges together in groups to help them, fully matriculate through the programs. And so I know that it's a really good organization. They have some resources that you all might find helpful. I just try to plug them whenever we discuss, the impact of student groups and where they belong and how they support one another. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Board. And we're looking to get this this out as soon as possible. The quicker we can get this information, the better we can plan for the next action items to help support family engagements and students. So if you guys have any listservs, again, we'll reach out to Simone to help with that as well, but please send them to Monique or myself. And I believe our contact information is in the Google Drive that you guys produced.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you for that reminder. And yeah, that we can communicate with each other cross committees and outside of these meetings using that contact information there. Thanks so much. All right, our next committee report is Hotline Response. Do we have a report for Hotline Response? and/or public relations. I know these are the ones Devin usually covers. Does anyone have any updates?
This is Sandra. I'll speak for the Hotline Committee. We've met at least 2 times, maybe 3. Johanna Clinton from, I believe, Alamogordo, and Devin and I. We've spent a lot of time coming up with case scenarios and discussing those so that they could be used for training with the hotline staff, and developing a script of sorts to follow with steps, how to begin and how to proceed through the cases. We've discussed creating a tracking system that's somewhat anonymous, in that the cases can be followed and referred to, but confidential as well. And the only thing that we could think of was some kind of Google document that could have a number and follow, and each call-in would become a case that would then be assigned to a case manager to follow through. We've developed a draft letter that would be sent out to confirm that a case has been started, and then a follow-up letter at the end. And as well, been working on the transitional plan that Nicole referred to earlier for us to use during his absence. And there are 2 assistant hotline people, I think, that have been hired at this point. And they are working on some cases right now.
Thank you for that update, Sandra. Can you say they're working on what right now? I cut out at that one
Some
word.
actual cases.
Oh, working on some actual cases, yeah.
Right. As we discussed possible scenarios to use for training, Devin we're dealing with a case that's very similar to this right now. So yes, they are working on some things.
And thank you so much for that report. And I appreciate the work that you all are doing on those logistics that'll ensure that the hotline is a success, and that it produces results for those who reach out to it, so that people continue to reach out to it. Thank you so much. Dr. York, you had a comment?
Yes, I wanted to say that the technology aspect of things is great because it helps us to move our work along a little bit faster. But I just ask that we be mindful, especially, and we learned this from going in Alamogordo, that to always probably be prepared with backup paper copies of surveys, just because, one, we don't want to assume that people know how to use technology and then they don't want to participate because that is a barrier. But 2, just in case, the technology does not work in our favor, that we have a backup. And that's exactly what happened with us. And so we did go prepared with backup copies, and people were willing to fill those out. So, and then I wanted to and Nicole, I'm asking that you chime in to make sure that I'm saying this accurately, but I want to make sure that, and we've had this conversation on the BEA side about the word case management, because that can be very misleading, because that is not the scope of work that we do with the hotline. And so Devin and I are working to identify a better term. And I know that it's kind of a very loosely used term, but typically in K-12, case management is time-intensive services that are used. And so those are not the services, that is not the scope of work that we do. And so when we get referrals, we do research and then we make recommendations or whatever. But I just want to be very careful about the use of terminology, because when parents hear that term, case management, they think that they're going to have somebody from our team working with them ongoing. Nicole, can you add anything to that?
No, and like you said, and we even with the hotline, we don't say investigation. We're just doing the research on the project because really we can't technically, the schools have their own disciplinary policies and we can't intervene with those policies. But what we tell them is that we're doing our research on there. And so we're really careful about the wording when we're dealing with the schools and the community. Just to let them know, because it is research and we are trying to identify the causes between the community or from the reporting, from the person that's reporting the act to with the schools. And so we have to see both sides because we have to be biased on there. And so we have to look at both sides. So like Kim's saying, it's not case management. And then what we're doing is researching the causes and effects of what happens with the hotline with the schools. I also wanted to piggyback on what with Sandra too. We are contracting additional person to help while Devin is gone with the hotline. But the new person that's coming on, the family and community coordinator that's coming on, we're going to have them working with the families that are doing, or any of the families or anybody that's reporting. We're going to have them working with on that side. So they'll have a contact person to work with those families. As well as, and then Devin and the other contract person will be working with the schools. And so that way we can, there's that, I guess they'll have someone to work with their families. They'll have a contact person, but then the schools will have a contact person on their end to work with, so that one person is not trying to do both sides. We're also looking into, oh, I went blank, I'm sorry, to do the both sides. With the hotline, we're also, oh, I'm sorry, it just like went out. So if it comes back to me, but yes, we're doing updates with the hotline, and trying to just get, because some more cases are coming in. There's some deeper cases that are really coming in that are involving the schools and parents. So people are utilizing the hotline. It's just that we need to be in step and ready. So like Kim was saying, it's not case management, but we have to have all of our ducks in a row when dealing with the hotline, because this is important. It's something new and it's just rolling out, and we're learning a lot. But there's still a lot to do to make sure that this hotline is utilized the way it's supposed to. So any recommendations, any suggestions with the hotline, we're open.
Nicole, I just wanted to add that also you, Kimberly, Devin, and I met to talk about the joint PD-HED memo that will be going out to the higher ed institutions to roll out the hotline for colleges and universities. And one of the things for us as an agency that's challenging is historically we have always been a statutory and fiduciary agency, which is, basically we don't have a lot of jurisdiction per se on the actual institutions. The leadership there, the structure obviously is presidents and board of regents. And so it's like that piece where, from my perspective, it's like you can't legislate hearts and minds. And so we want to do a lot of good groundwork to make sure that the institutions are really open to this new resource. And so as we frame and craft our memo, on our end, like what you were just describing, we want this rollout to be positive, and it's too important to rush it. So we're making very sure that we're doing our due diligence in terms of research. And it's probably going to wind up being a lengthy memo on our part, but we want to make sure that we're providing the information and almost the memos like that pathway or that invitation into this work that's already being done. And so the one thing I wanted to say is we had given a preliminary deadline of that memo going out by April 25th. And after we had an in-house meeting this week with some of our staff, is we were saying like that's a great goal. And if we have to extend that we'll just work with you all, because for us, it's more important to get the languaging of the memo right than to rush it out the door.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say, and exactly. And so, yes, that's, we just want to make sure. And again, we want to make sure we want both sides to trust us. So we want the schools, the institutions, the universities, we want to build that trust, as well as build that trust with that community. And so it's taking work. And so, like we said, we don't want to rush out and get something out if we're not ready on our end. And so we'll be working with Dr. Trujillo. Hopefully we'll meet next week too in working on the logistics, not just with the universities, also the logistics with PED and the K through 12 as
Yes,
well.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
All right, Ms. Bedford, I just wanted to check in and see, do we need a separate report for public relations, or are we good? We usually do those together. Are we good?
Thank you. That was what flew over my head. So due to we have graduating seniors. And so it was the public relations was our youth, and we were trying to get them involved as far as going to doing Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook. And but because they were graduating seniors, it was hard to get together with them. So once we get some more youth, well, we're looking for 3 more youth and to include their parents. We'll get them more involved with the public relations. So if you have any youth that you would know would really be awesome to serve on the advisory council, please let me know. And then I'll reach out to them. And speaking of that, before I forget, the 2 other additional advisory councils were approved by the secretary, by Secretary Steinhaus. And so we have a letter that's drafted out welcoming them to the advisory council. And so Leroy Copeland and Jermaine Washington will be the 2 new advisory council members. So yes, so they're not here. I was going to tell them welcome, but they have been approved by the secretary.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for that update. All right. With that, I believe we're at the end of our committee reports. Next up is announcements. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 21st. I'll just give a second to see for us to cross-check our calendars and make sure that's not a big problem for a critical mass of the group. All right, so we will meet again on May 21st from 9 to 11. Are there any other announcements or any other things we need to share with the group?
I would just like to say, Nicole and I talked about this morning. And Dr. Lopez, I wanted to acknowledge the email that you sent, that we will make sure that while we know the link is in the public announcement, we will make sure that everyone has direct access to the link in the email, because some people may not know to look I was one of them, looking this morning looking for the link, and it was attached to the public announcement, but we'll do a better job at making sure you have immediate access to the link itself. Oh yes, Arlen, thanks for bringing that up. Do you want to talk about that? I'm sorry, because I was just about to ask Nicole if she wanted to make that announcement.
Yeah. So this on the 26th, I am hosting APS first Black Scholar Celebration. Not to get confused with the rites of passage, knowing the rites of passage is mainly for BSU students. My graduation is overall for Black students throughout APS, and just highlighting their success throughout their experience in their 4 years of high school. Anybody who is able to graduate with based off the Center's PED and the district is allowed to be able to come and participate. So far, we've gotten a decent amount of special guests, and we've gotten a few students to be able to sign up. And I added the flyer in there. We actually removed the deadline because we do need more students to sign up, because from what my data is, we have roughly 90, at least 90 at minimum students set to graduate, Black students or students who identify as African-American or of African descent throughout the district. I do already have Kente cloths. They are different than, they're more on the level of like UNM's Kente cloths, like the Africana Studies one, with APS on it. and the other one says I am Black excellence. So it is a celebration. We do have Hakeem who is in the chat as our keynote, and will be rocking the house for that time, and speaking for our scholars to be able to walk across that stage. So what we do need is volunteers as well. If you are willing to volunteer, I know we have. I can send out an email with better information on it, where it's talking about the time slots. And the flyer that I added in here is actually the flyer to send to other Black scholars that are graduating this year. If they scan it, it'll send them straight to the registration form. I'll be able to. I have a Google form with the information. We are using that Google form to create a PowerPoint, so you'll be able to have like a headshot, some information of that scholar during the graduation, and kind of having it going while you're walking in. And it is at Bonifacio. Originally, it was going to be at Villa Hispana, but due to time, we switched and changed the schedule up. So it will be at Bonifacio, and I will make sure that I send an email out to everybody in the council to give more details on the volunteer side. But even if you don't want to volunteer, I'll also send you a special guest email. And if you just want to participate, you can definitely sign up. And we will be doing it from 6 to 8:30 overall. I am getting cake, so we will have cake and some refreshments. And yeah, so that's about it. So if you definitely want to be a part of it, it'll be a good little celebration, a good little time right before they go into their high school graduations, and you'll be able to see a little see. I'm trying to see really what that impact can do in being able to have representation in the district overall, and see if that can be kind of a charge for students to want to look forward to graduation and other elements like that. I also have, and I have to send that flyer out. In that same week, on the 30th, I have African American Youth Empowerment Summit, which is via Zoom, centered towards high school students, 9th to 12th, and it's centered around empowerment, leadership, allyship, and culture. And that is another one where Brother Hakeem is leading that one when it comes down to being a keynote, but also activities. We are having 8 facilitators from UNM, from I believe mainly UNM's DSU and African American Student Services. So they will be a part of it and helping with the facilitation and activities to be able to empower the students throughout APS to be able to be in one space to see each other. And we plan in next year to be able to do that more in person. Because this is based off of information that we got in our Kabila La Umoja group, that when we had youth, when we had roughly about 25 come in, they were saying that they did like when they were able to have access to the vibe and inner beauty, but they wanted to know how they can all come together and see how many of themselves they are in the district. So my effort was just to try to bring them all in one room, but also see other ways that we can think about empowering them to know that as much as in times when they don't get to see each other, that they are still a decent amount of people around, and how to kind of create their own village in that case. Because I feel like that's kind of not what you have to do in Albuquerque or New Mexico, but you have to find it, and giving them the tools to be able to find that anywhere they go. So I'll be sending more information about that Youth Empowerment Summit, as well as the information on the volunteer and email, and I'll be adding the flyer again, just so everybody is up on that.
Thanks so much for doing this important work, Arlen. The celebrations of our youth are really, really important. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for sharing the information with us via email in the short future. I would ask, if on Arlen's behalf, if you're not able to sign up or have someone sign up for what he's gonna send, please forward it to some groups of people who may have some people to sign up, please. We need to get the word out as much as possible. So thanks so much for that, Arlen.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for that announcement, because I sure didn't throw that in, but I think, yes.
All right, is there anything else for the good of the group?
Thank you, Alexandra. I have just two quick announcements. One I've put in the chat prior to departing as Director of Black Programs at NMSU. I was very intentional to secure Dr. Bannerman as the keynote speaker for the Black Programs at graduation celebration, which will be on May 5th. And it will be streamed over Zoom for those who would like to join in. And I can I put the flyer in the chat. And then I also would like to just bring public awareness. At NMSU, there is only one, currently there is only one building that is named after a African-American. And I myself and a couple of people, faculty in the history department, got together and in an effort to change that. And so we wrote a proposal to rename another building after an African-American who has dedicated over 40 years of his life. Mr. Clarence Felder worked at NMSU in the history department over 40 years. He passed away in 2015. Our initial request to rename the entire building was denied, but we went back with an alternative. And so I'm happy to let you know and to invite you to on April 22nd, and it'll also be streaming live. We will be dedicating the history wing of Breland Hall on NMSU campus in honor of Mr. Clarence Felder. And this is the only second such honorarium on the campus's history. So I'll share, once I find out the flyer, I'll send it out as well. So please feel free to join us for that as well.
Kimberly?
Yes.
We would love to coordinate at HED with you to create like a graphic that we can share on social media that day. So I'll be in touch with you probably Monday, Tuesday.
Okay, and I'm sorry because someone from the committee should have actually reached out to you. I specifically gave them your name and email because I thought that it was important for you to know about this.
Yeah, absolutely, and we want to amplify it. So thank you, and we sure will get that out.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Lopez?
Just a quick announcement. I will be placing an ad in UNM Jobs for 2 postdoctoral fellows that are related to a major grant I received recently from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation on employing intersectionality to revise our federal data collection, the Office of Management and Budget on Race and Ethnicity. So the deadline for that, I'm trying to remember from my own ad, I think it's a month later, so it gets posted now. And so like about 30 days. And of course, it'll stay open until it's filled. But the hope is that this would allow us to transition, hopefully, these postdocs at some point into tenure track. And there's also an inclusive excellence postdoctoral fellowship visiting program here at UNM that VP Asata Sarai overseas, and that's an ongoing program. A deadline just passed, but just if you know anyone who's interested in coming to UNM, this is a vehicle to try to diversify our faculty. You can visit the website for the Division of Equity and Inclusion, diverse.unm.edu. There should be new deadlines posted in the future. And as I said, the postdocs related to my grant, which are separate, will be in UNM Jobs probably by next week and open for at least a month. And then the last thing I'll mention is I know that this is a holiday weekend, so I'm just thinking next year if maybe we might want to rethink, any of our meeting times that are overlapping with major holidays.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that, Dr. Lopez. I was sharing with a colleague that I think we found that these Saturdays were free for a reason. And that's because a lot of them ran up against holidays. So in our zeal to set these dates, we were like, oh, we have a free Saturday. And it has been problematic a few times. So thank you for pointing that out. All right, if there isn't anything else for the good of the group, I'll do one more pause to see. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you all for the work that you do every single day. That's your day job and helping us get this work done in addition to the many hours you serve your communities to push this effort forward. You all are doing tremendous work, and and we couldn't do it without each other's support. So thank you so much. I appreciate you showing up, and it's great to see you on these Saturday mornings. All right. Everybody have a great weekend. All right. Thanks so much for joining us.